Welcome to the tutorial video on how to install a set of stainless steel Kentrol JK Jeep door hinges. We will be using a 2008 JK Sport, but this is the same process that will work for both 2-door and 4-door JKs. This is a moderate to hard install, taking between 4 and 6 hours, depending on how particular you are. Before we begin, make sure you lay out all of the parts for the hinges and double check the contents of the kit. For tools, you will need a 5mm Allen wrench, a T50 Torx, a 13mm socket, extension, and ratchet. Optional tools include a breaker bar, never seize lubricant, and clear RTV silicone. Assemble the upper hinge plate that mounts to the door to the body hinge plate with the nylon washer in between. Then place the small washer and nut onto the protruding threads and tighten them finger tight. If you are confused about the direction of the plates, use your existing hinges for a reference. Next, use a bottle jack or mechanic's jack to hold the door in the half-open position. Then, use a pencil or dry erase marker to trace the factory hinges inside the door frame. Now comes the tough part. Use a razor or knife to cut the factory paint, sealing the factory hinge to the door. Also, cut the paint around the Torx bolts holding the hinge in place. To break these bolts free, you may need a breaker bar, or try tapping the Torx head and extension with a ball-peen hammer. Remove the bolts attaching the hinge to the door frame, then completely remove the factory hinge. You will notice some rust under the factory door hinge. Use a light sandpaper or scrunch pad to remove it. Here is where we get a bit more particular. After sanding, we masked the area around the rust spot, reinstalled the 2 screws, then applied a coat of primer. Once dry, we added another coat of black to keep the rust at bay. We also applied lubricant to the bolt hole threads in case we ever need to do this again. When everything was dry, we applied a bead of silicone to the underside of the hinges to keep future moisture out. Align the new hinge plate to the inside of the door frame, slightly covering the outline of the former hinges, and tighten down the bolts. Next, apply another bead of silicone on the inside of the outer hinge half. The goal is to see some silicone squeeze out between the new hinge and the door's sheet metal. Use the new Allen wrench bolts to tighten the outer hinge half to the door. Double check all bolts for tightness before releasing the jack. Remove the jack and then adjust the door. As you can see in this time lapse, you may need to do some slight adjusting to make sure the door striker aligns with the center of the latch. When it does, you are ready to repeat the process on the lower hinge. When completed, you will have new stainless steel hinges that will not rust or flake. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy your new Kentrol hinges.